Hey everyone, this is Trish Kane. We're here live at the 1 o'clock round table on Fridays, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Today we have Michael. He's the way shower. Yeah, we renamed him. He's like, yeah, healer's cool, but way shower's more me. And honestly, I like that for you. And that's what's cool about Healerverse too. Like, I'm big on people not having a category. Like, obviously, we have to like say like kind of what we are, but we can all describe ourselves, right? Warrior of light, love that. Yeah. Everybody has like their own modalities that they do and different cool things that they do. But Michael has some special things that he does. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Sure. But real quick, I want to take a moment and recognize it's Memorial Day weekend. And so I want to thank everyone for their service, past, present, and future. It is a sacrifice few make, but is a beautiful sacrifice. So always remembered, not just one day of the year, in my view.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know who will be doing the Murph this weekend. I've done it many times. Maybe it's time to get back into the gym. Amazing. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
And you're in Texas.
I am. And the reason way shower works better for me as a title, so to speak, is I used to do Reiki, but I don't really practice it anymore. And I'm more in the paranormal field where I do investigations of locations. I do 3 paranormal podcast shows. And I also, what else do I do? Well, I post on Healerverse, so I'm
Yeah.
becoming more active on there.
Can you tell us what does paranormal mean to you?
That's a really good question because I used to think it just meant going and investigating haunted locations to see if there's spirits there. And I was writing an article for an online newsletter, and I got drawn into, because it was a metaphysical type newsletter, saying, my first newsletter was growing up in a metaphysical world into the paranormal. And then I realized, well, what does paranormal mean? Because it seems to be different for everyone. So when I looked it up, its actual definition simplified down becomes anything out of the ordinary, basically unexplained.
Okay.
So then I was like, oh, well, by that definition, I can go investigate triangles, portals, stargates, UFOs, cryptids, all types of fun stuff and dimensions, alien beings. So it really opened the door, and I use my shows to kind of try and be a bridge to bring people's awareness into those topics.
Thank you for your service. Seriously, like this is huge, right? Because I think too, it's kind of like the word uh like cult. Cult, if you Google it, it's not a bit, it's not like a negative connotation, but people use it in like a negative way, right? All
Right.
cult is a group of people collaborating to do something together. It's not necessarily negative, right? Paranormal kind of has maybe some kind of like a, "Ooh, what is that? I don't know. I don't want to talk about that feeling to it, right? But the way you just explained it, yeah, maybe people wouldn't want to talk about that either. But actually, we like talking about this. Everybody here, I think, understands, has been there, probably has some of the same superpowers that you have. And so, do you think that everybody can experience the things that you can experience? Or do you believe that it's just the people that believe, or How do you get to that point? Or does it just happen?
So, an easy way to approach that would be is, and I would say, if everybody was on pictures, I would just say simply go, how many people, by a show of hands, have ever felt like a loved one nearby or had an experience where they thought they saw something out of the corner of their eye? Or even better is felt like being watched. Those are paranormal experiences. We
Cool.
also, I found, can call them metaphysical, spiritual experiences. It's the same thing. And
Right.
so when I approach people who may be afraid of, like you were saying, the connotation of paranormal, I approach them by asking, like, have you ever had an experience you couldn't explain? And of course, everyone can say yes. And I'm like, then you've had a paranormal experience. You and the only difference is investigating the paranormal instead of saying, yes, I had that experience, don't want to have it again, walking away from it. But we do the opposite. We go and try to get it to happen again, try to document it, try to, see what all we're experiencing, why we're experiencing it. And the bottom line to majority of the paranormal investigators that I know is there's so many unanswered questions in life, like, the biggest one, is there an afterlife? And we
Course.
feel like by doing what we're doing and getting communication, we call them EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, unexplained voices, answering questions intelligently says to us, yeah, there's an afterlife. Their spirits are out there. Whether or not we're talking to a loved one, we can't guarantee that. You have to trust your instincts and or gut for that.
Yeah.
But one beautiful experience I had that really solidified it for me was, so my father passed away in June last year. Well, that was on a Wednesday, like towards midnight in the wee hours. It just became Wednesday. And that Friday, I was watching a friend's investigation over the phone because we do that sometimes. And I was interacting with one of the spirits there and amazed that he would respond over phone because, I'm not there physically. And so it was that got my attention. But then after it got around 1 o'clock, I was like, hey, I'm going to try and get some sleep. It's been a rough day. And she said, well, thank you, get some rest. And she had another team over investigating that location on Saturday. Well, Sunday, I say to her, hey, how did your weekend go? And she goes, well, there was this strange thing that happened. And I said, what? She goes, we had a name come up and it said its name 3 times and it mentioned food. And it was one particular piece of food. And I wrote her back and I said, OMG. And she goes, what? I said, I can take both of those. That was my dad.
Wow.
And he, and this was in another town.
Yep.
So, and she had never met my dad. So to have the name was like, hey, there's no way she would know my dad's name. And his favorite food, there's no way she would know that because,
Right. Of course.
and so to me, it was like in that moment, I realized there is an afterlife because I can't explain it. There's
Yeah.
no way that event was possible without it being my dad.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, and sentimentally so too, right? Because that is a super sentimental and beautiful story and special too, right?
Right.
So prior to this story, did you have similar experiences? Like you said, you were contacting people, and that's one question. And then also, I'll ask the next question after, but did you have previous experiences like this, or was that really the aha moment?
So for me, with dealing with the afterlife, that was the aha moment of validating my feelings of there is an afterlife and what it's like.
Mhm.
And before that, I would talk with spirits and have, and I know this is going to sound hilarious to some, but I had just started getting cat balls becoming a favorite piece of equipment for me to use because so if you don't have a cat, you turn them on and they have rainbow lights in them, but they're only activated when you move it. So when you
Mm,
put it on a floor that's like a slab floor, so it's not moving with footsteps, or you put it like locked into a corner of like a puzzle where you can't move it and it starts going off, it's like, okay, something's here. Something just touched that. No one's around it. Why is it going off? And so it's moments like that where it's like, wow, there is energy moving, there are spirits here. But for me, one of the moments that was kind of like we like to say that, oh my God, I went into euphoric like overload was I have always had friends get these EVPs. Never really got any.
what's an
And
EVP?
EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon. So what it
Okay.
is say you're walking through a room and you're recording a conversation with yourself, basically. You're asking questions like I can say, is anybody here with me? And then you wait a little bit, you're like, can I get your name? And you just are hoping something's responding. We never know until we get to replaying our stuff either at home or some people will do it on location. I wait till I'm home,
Question.
but
I'm sorry to
go
cut
for
you
it.
off. So everyone has their own way of contacting, right? Some people have visuals, some people have downloads, some people hear things. Like, I mean, it could be a collaboration of all that, right? So, does EVP fall into all of that, or is it just one way? Or
So EVPs are digital. It's a voice on a recording.
oh,
When people hear,
oh,
they call it clairaudient or
okay,
a medium. That's a
okay,
gift that
okay,
some people have, and they look for a digital recording to validate what they heard.
okay.
But yeah, they're a little bit different, but
Yes.
along the
So
same lines.
I just want to say too that I have all of these superpowers that you speak of. I might not get the same messages that you get or receive them the same way as other people with all of the entities and that you mentioned, right? Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, with all that you mentioned, I also am able to do all of this, all like the extraterrestrial, like spirits, angels, archangels. Like sometimes I don't know who's speaking to me. Ancestors, it comes in downloads, or I can ask a question and I see a yes and a no, and it moves. And like that's how I see it. Sometimes I make sure that I'm connected so that way it's not my higher self messing with me. So I actually get the right message. So I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation today because I think a lot of people too they feel alone and like we're like the aliens of the universe, right? But No, there's a lot of us all over the place, and it's actually beautiful what we're able to do, right? So that's why we're here to bring clarity and that there's a lot more out there. And we have a similar mission because when I died, I went to the other side, right? I went there. I mean, I
Right.
was 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So, I mean, I was dead, you know? I mean, I share this on a lot of interviews that I'm on, but like, like that escalated my superpowers, and I had superpowers before that were crowded by like 3D substances and stuff. And then things really, really amplified themselves in COVID, in lockdown. I started to see things that weren't there, and I was like, yeah, who do I talk to about this? Right? And then that's a lonely place to be.
It is,
So,
and
yeah.
I find that it's up to the spirits how or the energies how they want to communicate. I've been on before I started paranormal investigating, I had paranormal experiences, and they would be clairaudient, some of them, and some of them were just something I seen but I couldn't explain. And so I was like, okay. And then you kind of put it in your mind like, did I see that? Did I not? Well, I can't really verify, so file it away and
Yes.
we'll just move on like nothing happened.
I get that. That's yeah, it's a weird place to be because everything on this earth mostly tells us that that's not possible. It's not true. So you start to question yourself and you almost are like, wait, but like and then you kind of like negotiate with yourself and you're like, wait a
Yeah,
sec, like, and I think it depends too. It's just so nice too to have a community like Healerverse that we can talk about these things. And that's the point, right? So
right,
people can feel not alone anymore because it does. It gets lonely when you think that you don't know who the heck to talk to. And I don't, so I guess too, like, most of the like spirits and other things that come to me, they're here to help, right?
right. And
Is that your experience?
it is, and they also some of them want their story, to someone they're like, hey, you can hear us or you can see us because you're talking to us.
Aw.
So, yeah, I want to share. And some of them too, though, I feel like majority of them read our energies and intentions
Yeah.
because I love to tell the example of you can send 6 people into a room. 3 will say, I heard this voice. 2 will say, well, I might have seen something, but probably didn't. And 1 will be like, I didn't see or hear anything. They're all in the same space. What's the difference? The difference is the 3 that heard were open and the spirits could tell, really wanted to hear their story and communicate. The 2 they were unsure of, so they're like, hey, we'll show ourselves and we'll see if they're truly open or not. And the one that experienced nothing, they're like, yeah, he's here for his 15 seconds of fame. We're not about that, so we're not going to put a lot of energy into that. And so that's how I gauge why some people have more experiences than others is the energies read your intention, why you're there, what you're there for, and respond accordingly.
That's so nice. That's beautiful. So do you think that sometimes spirits can be a person that's here on earth right now and then their spirit or their soul is in multiple locations at once, or only people that passed? Or we don't know.
Well, being someone who has on occasion stumbled into bilocating, and I don't know how to do it so I can do it all the time, but I believe there are times. So the short answer is yes, you can be in the living and be, somewhere else. At the same time, it's hard to say whether something's alive or not because the way I approach paranormal investigating is I used to be of the school of, okay, if someone walked by, it's either an intellectual spirit who's going to interact, or
Or
it's a spirit that's just going through the motions of their life, residual, they call them, or someone who doesn't know they're dead. And so
okay.
those were the three that I thought of. Then when I started my journey into the esoterics and the unexplained phenomenon and opening up to it, I realized we could be looking at parallel universe timelines, our own alter timelines that are us, but a different time. And so, yeah, it's become to where, yeah, we don't know. We really honestly cannot say what we're seeing, but there are so many different answers as to what we're seeing. It's like we went from this kind of going, yeah, this is our field. We can answer from these to this. And so more
Yeah.
questions came out of it. And it's like, man, instead of finding answers, we're finding more questions.
Yeah, totally. So one time in about 2019, 2000, maybe late 19, early 20, um, I had this client when I worked in a treatment center. I worked in a drug and alcohol treatment center for like a year and a half. And one of the clients that I had out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients that I had passed away. And I mean, I know 200 and something people that have died from drug and alcohol related instances since I got sober in 2014. But this one particular one, she was actually on that show. What was that show called? Where they tried to intervention. She was on intervention, right? And she passed away like 5 years prior to this, mind you. Anyways, on I was driving my car and there was a guy definitely drunk walking across the street in Delray Beach, right? Hammered, like didn't look like it's night, definitely hammered, walking across the street like wrecked, like this, and almost got hit by multiple cars. I called 911 and I said, please come help him. He's big. I'm little. It's dark. I don't want to approach him. I don't know if he's on drugs or alcohol. Just please come help him. And then when we hung up, um, my phone rang. And I followed the kid though. I didn't want to lose him. I wanted if the police called me back when they were getting closer to go help him exactly where he was. And I would speak to him out the window, hey buddy, like you know what I mean, to keep him like preoccupied, but like don't come near the car, but I'm watching you to make sure you're okay. Anyways, so after that, my phone rang and my friend, I'm not gonna say her name, she's still alive today. She was struggling really badly with drugs, and I was trying to help her, but she disappeared when I went to go try to help her, right? And like I was there, she ran out the door, grabbed her spare set of keys, and went. Because like drugs are crazy, right? Drugs
Right.
fuck with paranormal too, by the way, right? Like big
They
time. You
do.
could definitely like some of them are like not the best paranormal experiences, right? Um, it makes you paranoid. But anyways, so all of a sudden the girl that passed away that was my client, it said her name that she was calling me on the car, right? But on my actual cell phone device, it said the girl that I was trying to help that was alive and struggling was calling me. I couldn't even answer the girl that was struggling. I was so dumbfounded that this girl, Carissa Hiltz, was calling me that died 4 or 5 years before. I was like, what? Like, and I knew, you know who that is? I was like, "No way," because she was on, yeah, she was on intervention. I shouldn't even be attorney, client, client patient privilege, but that was like so long ago, right? And she's no longer here. But she was trying to tell me, like, thank you for helping this guy because she passed away, Carissa, from getting hit by a car, actually. and I was trying to help this kid. But she was trying to contact me to say help her and help him. Like, I couldn't even answer the phone. I couldn't even answer it. I was like, this is wild. Then that night I was like seeing all spirits in the living room, and I called my friend Jacqueline, who's a healer also, and I said, Jacqueline, Carissa called me. She's like, Carissa always messes with me. Like, no doubt. Like Carissa's like the one and she was so fun too, Carissa, like on earth, She was so funny. She was like completely wild and reckless and like almost like aggressive, but to me she was kind and sweet. So I think, like, you know what I mean? She was just getting in contact with me, but that's one of the many experiences that I've had. But I mean, that was in my face. That was in my face.
Just the thing we have to realize is because the physicality is no longer there,
Mm,
doesn't mean they cease to help and cease
yeah.
to interact.
Yep. Yeah. That was probably like my favorite experience. I couldn't even take it. I was like, no. And I already had contact with like spirits since like maybe 2011 is when I started to um kind of get signs from people that passed. And also, that's how I always tell people if they're like looking to find their own version of God or whatever, because I'm big on that too, from being a 12-step program also. Like the only thing that can save you, they say, is finding some kind of God, whatever it is. You know, I always tell people look for signs from people that pass for 2 weeks. Come back to me. Like the clients that I always had and friends and stuff, come back to me. If you don't find anything, I'll be shocked. It's usually 2 days later, 3 days later, Trish, Trish, Trish. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, I love hearing all about that. It's special and it gives people a whole new meaning of life, right?
It does, and I have to be careful because being a hybrid and growing up in metaphysicals, I never had the dogma of religion. And
Okay.
so the reason I say that is so my parents, you're going to get a kick out of this
Yeah.
story, Trish, is as a child, we would go to church. I would be sitting in the pews next to my parents and be talking, squirming around, being a kid. And the second the priest got up to deliver the sermon, I was sound asleep. Never heard a single sermon. And the second he was done, turned around, I would wake back up. To this day, my parents could not explain why this would happen, but they both would say, yeah. He it would be the strangest phenomenon is he could be in mid sentence and the second he starts the sermon, he's out and then wakes up when it's done. And it's like, to me, no time has passed. Don't even realize I missed anything. And so I asked my guides later in life, why that was. And they said, because we were protecting you from the dogma. We didn't
Oh,
want you to learn the dogma. So I was like, well, that was cool. But what I had to be careful of, where I was going with this, is the way I think is different. And so I've been in programs to help grow and learn. And like you were pointing out with the 12 steps, well, the one thing that I would always hear when I was talking with people who were dealing with addiction is they would always say, you can never cure this addiction. It's always there. You always have to be vigilant. And I would always go home and be like, that is such utter nonsense to me. Anything and everything can be cured. You don't have to be held prisoner by this all your life. But I quickly learned I can't say that around people in programs because they're like, no. And they will get very upset that I say you can cure this addiction, and they're like, no.
oh
So
my gosh. So Honestly, I understand where you're coming from. I've tried to cure my voice inside my head that still tells me to get drunk or get high. It's a lot less often, but if I have a stressful moment, my brain still goes there. And that's what's abnormal, right? After I died from a drug overdose, died, my brain will still be like, go get fucked up, you know?
Mm.
And it's like, but also, how about this though? Maybe it serves me in some way, right? So, like, even though I may still be wired this way, I've tried to heal it with different healers, I've had healers remove it. It hasn't gone away. I haven't drank or drugged in over 9.5 years, alcohol, but there's certain things that, and it has something to do with even the 12-step program. I go to that still because I enjoy it and because it helps me and it makes me feel fulfilled and to help others because it saved my life initially. But at the same time, I've done so much to remove it and it didn't go away. So it must serve me in some way, and that's okay. Like that, you know?
I wonder, have you tried timeline therapy?
I've done it all. But also, it's one of those things too. It's kind of a good thing to have because it serves me in a lot of ways. I get to help other people because I know how their mind works, that we're like built a little bit differently, whether we started like this or it happened later down the line. I don't know. But some people that can't relate to this don't have the same thing that I have. It's different. I'm telling you, it's different.
Well,
Because the
you're
wo
approaching it with positivity, and
Yeah.
that way, a lot of the people I was talking to are like, it was more of a burden on them and feeling like they're broken because this will never be fixed. And
Aw,
I was like, that's the part that I was like, that's why I was saying, no, this isn't, you're not broken. Why,
right.
why are we not teaching how to change that mindset? And
Yes,
so I ended up ultimately actually over the lockdowns separating from the group, and I was like, yeah, I feel like ran my course there and moved on.
totally. That's great. Yeah, I think too, like, there's not one way to heal, right? There's not. And I think conversations like this are so beneficial for people to learn from us and to learn from others what options are and opportunities are. And like, I mean, I do a lot of different things, right? Because it's like we're always healing and evolving and learning together. So to learn from you today is literally amazing and from everyone else that's come on the Healerverse Roundtable, all the verified healers that are freaking amazing so far, because we don't all have the same stuff that we're going through, but we're all beautiful humans, right? And we could be there for each other. And it's like, try everything. Never stop working on yourself. I feel like it's the biggest investment that you can do for yourself is to work on yourself and to help others.
Right. And I just like to clarify too that I'm not saying don't do the programs. I'm just saying don't limit yourself to ways of healing. That you
Yeah.
use multiples. I've used multiples in my life. I've overcome a lot of things through things. And so, yeah, there's, like you're saying, there's more than one way.
Yeah. And it's like, I always give this example, but my mom, when I was growing up, had a picture of a lady in a bikini on the fridge. That way she wouldn't eat the kids' snacks, right? But that picture sat on that fridge for like years and it started to blend in with the fridge. So maybe it served its purpose in the beginning, right? For her to be deterred from going in there and eating whatever snacks were in there. But once it's there for a long time, it starts to blend in and it stops working. You need to put up a new picture or try something new, right? So, like, always growing and evolving is so important. And it's really how we're meant to be. We're designed to keep growing and evolving and learning. Like, they always say, what would you tell? I mean, I don't know how old you are, Michael, but I'm 39. Like, what would you tell your 19-year-old self? You know, it's like if I knew then what I know now, but like we're supposed to be on a journey. We're human.
Yeah, that was my favorite metaphysical term that stuck with me
Which
and helped me was we are all spiritual beings here having a human experience.
fact. Yeah,
And so it's like, and the part of that that people forget was it was an ancient philosopher. I want to say Aristotle, maybe, or Socrates, one of them. Don't quote me on that, but the name, but said to err is to be human, meaning, humans make mistakes. That's fine. And the other part of that was about the divine and going, we are divine, but yet we can make mistakes.
of course. And also to add to that, one of my favorites that complements that is like put down the bat, pick up the feather. Like people beat themselves up so much. And it's like pick up the feather and like caress yourself like gently. Like Lynn's picture right now with the feather in her hair, right?
Yeah. I always like to tell people when they say they figured something out, I'm like, lucky you. You got it without having to get hit by the cosmic 2x4, or in my case,
Yeah.
the cosmic 2x12.
Yeah.
And they're like 2x12. I'm like, yeah, sometimes that takes me a little longer. So they have to get my attention in a stronger way.
Yeah, that's true. And that goes like on a day-to-day basis, right? Like I think too, like some days it's easier than others. And then, but it's like the universe will scream at me about certain things. And I'll just like be like, well, I'll save that for later, And then they're like, hello. Like, and I feel it within myself. Like one of the things that I did for the full moon last night was one of the like we burnt some wood and stuff. We're burning wood again today just to keep it going. But um one of the things I really wanted to do was start listening to my intuition better. Like everything that I need to know is within myself. And like people will often like railroad and you know what I mean, or whatever, like make shit up or whatever. And we know already. We know those answers. So like put it together right away instead of letting stuff drag out, And practicing mindfulness helps with that. Just being in the moment, really. When I'm in a rush, 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 go, 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 and my masculine push, 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 it's hard for me to take inventory on myself and be like, what is really going on? And to slow down is nice to be like, okay.
Right.
And
And
intuition.
the one that gets me too is with my Reiki and having a reverence license. Sometimes, people ask me questions and I'll answer and help them out. And then I'll be in a situation similar and I'm like going through just like they were. And somebody will go, well, you told me this. And I'm like, "Crap, why didn't I remember that? What, and it's like, they're using my own language against me now."
Yeah, but sometimes you just tell people what they need to hear in the moment and we're not conscious of it because it's like our higher self speaking or like. So what do you think about that as far as that goes? Like, because obviously if there's spirits around us, we're spirits too, right?
Yeah.
Even though we have a body.
Yeah. A lot of people I've come to know describe us as energy beings in a shell.
Mm,
That the body is just a shell. You take care
yeah,
of it, it takes care of you. It's a protective shell.
yeah.
And so when you think about it that way, it's like, okay, that makes sense why, some things are different for everybody. But a lot of times too was like people would say, "Oh, I've tried, like, say, for example, tried dieting, but I can't lose anything." And they'll ask a medium, "Why can't I lose anything?" And they're like, "Well, your body has nothing to lose. Your body is the size it is to contain the energy you have within it."
I
And
love that.
so they're like,
Oh, I
"Oh."
love that.
So it's like, yeah,
Love
I
that.
mean, when we look at, stereotypes, we have been programmed to believe, and I'm probably going to get hit for this, but programmed to believe that the models in the magazine that have been photoshopped, airbrushed are the norm.
Yeah.
And when you look at the norms prior to the arrival of the fashion industry, Samoans were thought to be the healthiest people, and they're the largest body mass people on the planet almost. But for them, it's like, yeah, this is who we are, and it serves us, and they don't think of themselves as overweight or, in a bad way. They think, yeah, the more I have, the better I look. And it's funny how we allow other people to determine what is and isn't what we should be. And I had a lady the other day say to me, "I never hear you talk about, how you look weight wise. What's your thoughts on it?" And I was like, "I don't really have it. I am the way I am." And they're like, "Well, do you diet?" I'm like, "Yeah. How do you diet? I eat when I'm hungry and I eat what the body wants. That's it. That's my rule." And I've tried doing the eating when I'm not hungry, and most of the times I'll start feeling sick and the body will reject it because it didn't need it.
Yeah. I
So
feel like
everyone is
too,
different.
like, yeah, like everybody, honestly, of course, there's definitely proven facts of like what is healthier to eat, right? Like, definitely, like, and we get that information almost internally, right? I would say I don't think there's one person in the whole world, in the whole freaking world, that believes fast food stuff is healthy, right? That's not to say don't eat it, but it's literally processed and it's not real food. It's some of it tastes good, but I mean, I eat processed food sometimes too. I like it. But how do I feel after, like, is the key. And how do I make sure that I'm the best version of myself is key too, right? Like whatever like we need to continue going on is definitely what's best, right?
Right.
Us.
And
And I think like what you're trying to say too is like people shouldn't be judging people, period. I even don't like when people say you look like you lost weight. I don't think that's really fair because like that's not really your business. You know what I mean? That's not really, even
right.
if they mean well, like I don't appreciate that actually. Is that like a compliment or something? You know what I mean? Is that a compliment? Like it's like
It's a
everybody
double
if
edged sword because
yeah.
one, it's a compliment,
Yeah.
but on the flip side, the perception could mean, oh, so you're saying I was heavy to start with.
Yeah, or like you could just say you look beautiful every single day, and that's probably more accurate because we're all beautiful human beings, right?
Right.
Literally all beautiful human beings. We're all pure love and pure, like everybody is, even though there's idiots doing dumb stuff. And like you said, like certain things like that we might talk about might not be as acceptable on certain platforms. It's certainly acceptable on Healerverse, certainly, and everybody is able to have their own opinions on Healerverse and share it, and it's not going to get shut down. Cool.
Exactly. And, one of the things that I love about researching into the esoterics, which for those who aren't familiar just means hidden knowledge,
Okay.
is I realize now, like, say for example, McDonald's. if you remember, I think it wasn't it in the late 90s, around early 2000s, they go, "Hey, we are now serving chicken nuggets made with 100% real chicken." And everybody was excited. Now, with the gaze of esoterics, I look and I'm like, wait a minute. If you're telling me now it's real chicken, what was it before?
Oh gosh.
And so it's like, wait a minute. And people just blindly think this is great. It's now healthy, it's chicken. It's like, well, it was chicken to start with. So how, it's like, wait a
Ew. Gross.
and
All right, we
so
only have like 2 minutes left. Do you want to talk about what you have coming
2
up?
minutes left. I thought we were going to 1:30 is what the thing said.
Eastern? Did I did I do the
1:30
wrong time?
Eastern. That's what the
Oh, it's
post said.
it's 2 o'clock Eastern right now. It's an
Yeah.
hour.
I was so excited because it looked like you because it
I
said on
can
the
stay
thing, it
on with you
said
after. I'll stay on with
the
you.
1:30 my time. So I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, I got an extra half hour. It's so
oh
cool."
my gosh. Well, I'll stay on with you after for sure. I'll talk to you for a little bit. But is there any specifics of how people can see your YouTube and everything? Is all that on your Healerverse profile?
So I can't really post the episodes
Okay,
yet. But what I can say is if you go to YouTube and you search for the energy that surrounds us, or paranormal verses, or writing through the unknown, those are my three podcast shows.
amazing.
Now, the energy that surrounds us is my paranormal journey and my personal delving into paranormal topics. That's me specifically. The reason I
Yeah,
say that is paranormal versus is the same thing, except I'm with Kel Ridley and Matt Atkinson in the UK. So we're
cool.
crossing the pond and doing a show together and having a lot of fun with it. And writing through the unknown is my esoteric journey and my journey into the secret space program and what my involvement is in that I'm starting to hopefully get more memories of, and other topics like Tartaria, what happened to them, where the civilization went, what giants, the Anunnakis, the gods. So that's my journey into esoterics and disclosure, I like to call it, where I push the envelope, and so far Facebook hasn't kicked me off. Or not Facebook, YouTube.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
I'm also on Rumble, so you can also catch the shows on Rumble.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Let's do it again soon. We're going to go live on LinkedIn soon too, all of us. Thanks, everybody.